It was a cold, chilly December evening. The air felt crisp, like when you breathe out and see little clouds puff from your mouth. Snowflakes danced down from the sky, soft and quiet, landing on the ground like a big white blanket. In a little neighborhood on Pine Street, one house stood out. It wasn't big or fancy, but it glowed, oh, it glowed so bright. Red lights blinked. Green lights winked. Gold lights sparkled like stars. This was Jake Miller's house, and Jake was just a regular guy. Not a superhero, not a king, just a guy who loved Christmas. He wanted to make people happy with his lights, to spread some holiday cheer like a big, warm hug for everyone who walked by. Jake wasn't tall or loud. He had messy brown hair and a big smile that made you feel like you'd known him forever. He wore a puffy blue jacket and old sneakers as he climbed his ladder, stringing up those lights one by one. Clip, clip, clip they went onto the roof. Snap, snap, snap they looped around the windows. Every night, he'd plug them in, and whoosh the house turned into a magical wonderland. Kids would run over, giggling and pointing. Look at the red ones, they'd shout. The green ones are my favorite. Grown UPS would stop too, pulling out their phones to take pictures. Wow, Jake, they'd say. This is the best house on the street. And Jake would just grin, wave, and say, glad you like it? Most neighbors loved those lights. Old Mrs. Carter, who lived next door, clapped her hands every time she saw them. It's like Christmas came early, she'd say, her eyes all twinkly. The little twins from across the street, Sam and Sophie, would dance under the glow, their mittens flapping as they spun around. Even grumpy Mr. Jenkins, who never smiled, gave a tiny nod once and muttered, not bad, kid. It felt like the whole street was happier because of Jake's lights. They brought people together, like a big party without even trying. But not everyone was happy. Oh no, not her. Not Linda Grayson. Linda wasn't like the others. She didn't smile or wave. She didn't clap or take pictures. Linda was the HOA queen, the boss of the neighborhood rules. HOA stood for something boring like Homeowners Association, but to Linda, it meant she was in charge of everything. She walked around like she owned the whole street, her nose high in the air, her shoes clicking on the sidewalk. Click, click, click she'd march up and down, holding a clipboard tight against her chest. That clipboard was her weapon. She'd scribble notes on it, frowning at messy yards or loud dogs. Too many flowers, she'd snap at one house. Your mailbox is crooked, she'd bark at another. Linda loved rules more than anything, more than candy, more than snow days, more than Christmas itself. To Linda, Jake's lights weren't fun or pretty. They weren't a happy holiday surprise. To her, they were a crime. A big, huge, terrible crime. She'd stand in front of his house, her arms crossed, her eyes squinting like she'd just bitten a sour lemon. Those lights are too bright, she'd grumble. Too many colors, she'd huff. This isn't allowed. She didn't care that the kids laughed or that Mrs. Carter smiled. To Linda, rules were rules, and Jake was breaking them. She didn't see a winter wonderland, she saw a problem she had to fix. Hey, you watching from somewhere snowy tonight? Let me know in the comments. I bet some of you have snow piling up outside right now, huh? Maybe you're sipping hot cocoa or wrapped in a blanket. Tell me where you are, it'll make the story even more fun. Anyway, back to Linda. She didn't just grumble and walk away. Oh no, Linda wasn't that kind of person. She'd stare at Jake every single chance she got. If he was outside hanging more lights, she'd be there, watching from her porch. If he waved at a neighbor, she'd mutter under her breath, this isn't a circus. If he turned on the lights at night, she'd stomp her foot and shake her head. Her voice was sharp, like a teacher scolding a kid who forgot their homework. This is a quiet street, she'd say. We don't need all this nonsense. But Jake? He didn't get mad. He didn't yell. Jake just smiled. That's it? He'd look at Linda, give her that big, friendly grin, and keep doing his thing. Up the ladder he'd go, humming a little song, hanging more lights like he didn't even hear her. Clip, clip, clip another string went up. Snap, snap, snap another row glowed bright. It drove Linda crazy. Why doesn't he stop, she'd think. Why doesn't he listen? She'd pace back and forth in her house, peeking out her curtains, her frown growing bigger every day. She'd write notes on her clipboard, long, angry notes about Jake and his silly lights. Too bright, she wrote. Too loud, she scribbled. Breaking the rules, she underlined 3 times. But here's the funny thing, Jake wasn't scared of Linda. Not one bit. He didn't argue or yell back. He didn't rip down his lights or beg her to stop complaining. He just kept going, calm as could be. And that made Linda even madder. I'll show him, she'd say to herself, slamming her clipboard on the table. I'll make him take those lights down. She had a plan, a big, bossy plan. She didn't know it yet, but that plan was going to turn everything upside down. Not for Jake, though. For her. See, Jake wasn't just a regular guy with some Christmas lights. He had a secret. A big, juicy secret that nobody, not Linda, not the neighbors, not even old Mrs. Carter, knew about. Behind that friendly grin, behind those twinkling lights, Jake was hiding something. Something that was going to make Linda wish she'd never picked a fight with him. What was it? Oh, you'll find out soon. But not yet. Not right now. I'm not going to spill the beans just like that. You've got to stick around, keep listening, because this story's about to get wild. Linda thought she was the queen of Pine Street. She thought she could boss everyone around and get her way. She thought Jake was just some goofy guy who didn't know the rules. Boy, was she wrong. Her perfect little world, the one where she made the rules and everyone listened, was about to flip upside down. Not slowly, not quietly, but fast and loud, like a snowball rolling down a hill, getting bigger and bigger until bam, it crashes into everything. And Jake? He was the one rolling that snowball, even if he didn't look like it. Picture this, Linda, standing there with her clipboard, thinking she's so smart. Jake, plugging in his lights, looking all innocent. The neighbors, watching from their windows, wondering what's going to happen next. It's like a big game, and Linda didn't even know she was playing. She thought she was winning, but Jake had the winning card tucked right up his sleeve. What was it? What was Jake hiding? Was it something funny? Something sneaky? Something that would make everyone laugh or gasp or cheer? You'll see. Stick around, because this story's just getting started. Let's rewind a bit. Back to that chilly December evening when it all began. Jake was outside, the snow falling soft around him, his ladder wobbling just a little as he reached up high. The lights blinked on one by one, red, green, gold, like little fireworks in the dark. He didn't know Linda was watching. He didn't know she was already plotting. He just wanted to make people smile, to light up the street, to chase away the winter gloom. That's what he told everyone, anyway. Just spreading some cheer, he'd say, his voice all warm and happy. And people believed him. Why wouldn't they? He was Jake, nice, quiet Jake with the big smile and the messy hair. But Linda didn't buy it. Not for a second. She saw those lights, and her brain went, nope. Trouble. She didn't see cheer or fun or holiday magic. She saw a rule breaker. A rebel. A problem she had to squash. She'd tap her pen on her clipboard, tap, 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 thinking up ways to stop him. I'll talk to him, she decided one day. I'll tell him those lights have to go. So she put on her coat, grabbed her clipboard, and marched over to Jake's house. Click, 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 her shoes hit the snowy sidewalk. She was ready to win. Jake, she called, her voice loud and bossy. He poked his head out from behind a bush, a string of lights in his hands. Hey, Linda, he said, all cheery. What's up? She puffed out her chest, like a bird fluffing its feathers. Those lights, she said, pointing. They're against the rules. Too bright. Too many. Take them down. Jake tilted his head, like he was thinking real hard. Then he smiled big and bright, just like his lights. Ah, Linda, they're just for fun, he said. Everyone likes them. Fun, she snapped. This isn't about fun. This is about rules. She waved her clipboard like it was a magic wand. I'm the HOA president, and I say they go. Jake scratched his head. He said. I don't think there's a rule about lights. Linda's face went pink. There is now, she barked. Take them down, or else. Then she spun around and stomped off, her coat flapping in the wind. Jake watched her go. He didn't yell. He didn't frown. He just smiled that same old smile and went back to his lights. Clip, 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 they kept going up. Linda thought she'd scared him. She thought he'd listen. She thought she'd won. But she didn't know Jake. She didn't know what he was really up to. She didn't know her bossy little world was about to crash down around her ears. And that's where the story gets good. So, what was Jake hiding? Why wasn't he scared of Linda? What made him so calm, so cool, so ready to keep those lights shining? You're dying to know, right? I can tell. Well, I'm not telling you yet. Nope, not yet. You've got to wait a little longer, because this story's like a present. You don't rip it open all at once. You peel the paper off slowly, peeking inside, getting more and more excited. And trust me, what's inside this story is worth the wait. Imagine Linda, sitting in her house, plotting her next move. Imagine Jake, outside in the snow, humming his little song, stringing up more lights. Imagine the neighbors, whispering to each other, what's Linda going to do? What's Jake going to do? It's like a big show, and you've got the best seat in the house. So don't go anywhere. Don't click away. Stick around, because this chilly December evening is just the start. Linda's about to make her move, and Jake's secret is about to come out. And when it does, oh, you won't believe it. Linda Grayson wasn't the kind of person who let things go. Nope, not her. She was like a dog with a bone. Once she got mad about something, she held on tight and wouldn't let go. And Jake's Christmas lights? Oh, those lights made her madder than a bee stuck in a jar. She didn't just grumble or shake her head like most people might. She didn't sit in her house and sip tea and forget about it. Linda was the HOA queen, and queens don't let rule breakers slide. She had to do something. She had to fix it. And one cold, dark night, she decided it was time to show Jake who was boss. Picture this: the snow is falling soft and slow, like little feathers floating down from the sky. Jake's house is glowing, red lights blinking, green lights shining, gold lights twinkling like tiny stars. It's pretty, right? Kids are laughing outside, their boots crunching in the snow. Neighbors are peeking out their windows, smiling at the happy holiday glow. But Linda? She's not smiling. She's not laughing. She's stomping through the snow, her coat zipped up tight, her phone clutched in her hand like a weapon. Her face is all scrunched up, her eyes narrow, and her lips pressed tight together. She's on a mission, and that mission is Jake. She storms right into Jake's yard, her boots leaving big, angry prints in the snow. Jake is there, standing by his ladder, plugging in another string of lights. Clip, 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 they snap into place. He's humming a little song, soft and happy, like he doesn't have a care in the world. Linda stops a few steps away, her breath puffing out in little clouds. Jake Miller, she snaps, her voice sharp like a teacher calling out a kid who's talking in class. Jake turns around, slow and easy, and gives her that big, friendly grin. Hey, Linda, he says, all cheery. What's up? Linda doesn't grin back. Oh no, not even a little. She points at the lights, her finger shaking a bit because she's so mad. Those lights, she yells. They're too bright. Way too bright. They're blasting into my windows, keeping me awake. And they're against the rules. Her voice gets louder with every word, like a siren going off. I told you to take them down, but you didn't listen. So now I'm calling the cops. She holds up her phone, waving it in the air like it's a magic wand that's going to make all her problems disappear. Jake doesn't jump or frown. He doesn't look worried at all. He just shrugs like it's no big deal and says, go ahead, Linda. Call them. I'm not breaking any laws. His voice is calm, smooth, like he's talking about the weather or what he had for lunch. Not a single shake, not a single stutter. He stands there, hands in his pockets, that grin still on his face, while Linda's eyes get big and her mouth drops open a little. What? He's not scared? He's not begging her to stop? He's just, okay with it? That makes her even madder. Her face turns red, redder than Rudolph's nose on Christmas Eve. Redder than the lights blinking on Jake's roof. She's so mad she can barely talk for a second. She sputters, like a car that won't start, then jabs at her phone with her finger. Tap, tap, tap. She dials 911 right there in Jake's yard, the snow crunching under her boots as she paces back and forth. Hello? Yes, this is Linda Grayson from Pine Street, she shouts into the phone. I've got a problem. There's a guy here with blinding lights all over his house. They're too bright. They're a danger. A public safety issue. You need to come right now. Her voice is loud, bouncing off the houses, so loud the neighbors probably hear her through their closed windows. Jake doesn't move. He doesn't argue. He doesn't say, no, don't, or please, stop. He just watches her, leaning against his ladder, calm as a cat napping in the sun. The lights keep twinkling red, green, gold like they're laughing at Linda too. She finishes her call, snaps her phone shut, and spins around to face Jake. There, she says, her chest puffing out like she just won a prize. The cops are coming. They'll make you take those lights down. You'll see. She crosses her arms, smirking a little, thinking she's got him now. She's the queen, and queens always win, right? But here's the thing, Linda thought she had all the power. She really did. She thought she could snap her fingers, call the cops, and boom, Jake would be in big trouble. She thought he'd panic, rip those lights down, and beg her to forgive him. She thought she was the boss, the ruler, the one who made everyone listen. But she didn't notice something. Something big. Jake wasn't sweating. He wasn't shaking. He wasn't scared at all. Not even a tiny bit. His hands stayed in his pockets, his grin stayed on his face, and his eyes didn't even blink. Why? Why wasn't he afraid? Why wasn't he running around like a chicken with its head cut off? Linda didn't see it, but something was up. Something huge was brewing, and she was about to step right into it like a kid stepping into a puddle that's way deeper than it looks. Let's back up a little. Linda wasn't new to this. She'd been the HOA queen for years and years of bossing people around. If someone's grass grew too tall, she'd bang on their door with her clipboard. Cut it, she'd say. If a kid left a bike in the driveway, she'd write a note. Move it, she'd scribble. If a mailbox got a dent, she'd call a meeting. Fix it, she'd demand. Everyone on Pine Street knew Linda's rules. They rolled their eyes, they grumbled, but they listened most of the time. She was loud, she was pushy, and she always got her way. So when Jake put up those lights, she thought it'd be the same old story. Yell a little, wave her clipboard, and he'd back down. Easy peasy. But Jake wasn't like the others. He didn't jump when she yelled. He didn't say, yes, ma'am, and run to fix it. He just smiled and kept going. That drove Linda nuts. Every day, she'd peek out her window and see those lights red, green, gold mocking her. Every night, she'd hear the kids laughing and the neighbors chatting about how pretty they were. It made her stomach twist and her head pound. He's breaking the rules, she'd mutter to herself, pacing her living room. He's making me look bad. She couldn't stand it. She couldn't let it go. She had to win. And calling the cops? That was her big move. Her checkmate. Her slam dunk. Or so she thought. While Linda was yelling into her phone at night, Jake just stood there. The snow fell around him, sticking to his messy hair, but he didn't brush it off. The wind blew, cold and sharp, but he didn't shiver. He watched Linda like she was putting on a show, a funny little play, and he was the audience, comfy in his seat. Why? Why was he so chill? Most people would freak out if someone called the cops on them. Most people would say, wait, no, let's talk, or I'll take them down, okay. But not Jake. He didn't budge. He didn't blink. He just waited, calm and cool, like he knew something Linda didn't. And he did. Oh, he did. Something big was bubbling up, like a pot of soup about to boil over. Something sneaky and wild was hiding behind that grin of his. Linda didn't see it. She was too busy yelling, too busy thinking she'd won. She didn't notice how Jake's eyes twinkled, not from the lights, but from something else. She didn't hear how steady his voice was, how sure he sounded. She didn't catch the little hints, the way he shrugged, the way he smiled, the way he wasn't scared. She was blind to it all, stomping around in his yard, waving her phone, acting like she'd already beat him. But she hadn't. Not even close. Let's imagine what Linda was thinking right then. She's standing there, snow in her hair, phone in her hand, smirking at Jake. I've got him now, she's saying to herself. The cops will come, they'll see those lights, and they'll tell him to take them down. Maybe they'll even give him a ticket. Ha! That'll teach him. She's picturing it all, sirens wailing, lights flashing, Jake looking sad as he pulls the plugs. She's imagining the neighbors watching, nodding, saying, Linda was right. She's the boss. She's dreaming of her victory, her big win, her moment to shine. In her head, she's already won the crown, the trophy, the whole game. But Jake? He's not thinking that. Nope. He's standing there, watching her pace, watching her yell, and he's got something else on his mind. Something Linda can't even guess. He's not worried about the cops. He's not worried about her rules. He's got a secret, a big, juicy secret that's going to flip this whole thing upside down. What is it? Oh, I'm not telling you yet. Not right now. You've got to keep going, keep listening, because this story's about to get crazier. Linda's walking right into a trap, and she doesn't even know it. Jake's got something up his sleeve, and it's bigger than lights, bigger than rules, bigger than anything Linda can imagine. Think about it. Linda's so sure she's in charge. She's the HOA queen. She's got her clipboard, her phone, her power. She's called the cops, and they're on their way any minute now, she thinks. They'll roll up and back her up. She's standing in Jake's yard, her chin high, her smirk wide, waiting for her big moment. She doesn't see how calm Jake is. She doesn't wonder why he's not arguing. She doesn't ask herself, why's he smiling like that? She's too busy being mad, too busy being bossy, too busy thinking she's won. But she hasn't won. She's about to lose big time and she's got no clue. The snow keeps falling, soft and quiet, covering the ground like a blanket. The lights keep twinkling red, green, gold like they're in on the secret too. The neighbors keep watching, peeking out their curtains, whispering to each other. Linda called the cops, they're saying. On Jake? 4 lights. They're curious, they're confused, they're waiting to see what happens next. And Jake? He's waiting too. But not like Linda. He's not waiting for the cops to yell at him. He's waiting for something else, something that's going to make Linda's jaw drop and her face turn even redder than it already is. What's brewing? What's Jake hiding? Why's he so calm when the cops are coming? You're dying to know, aren't you? I can tell. Well, hang on tight, because this chilly night is just the beginning. Linda's in over her head, and she doesn't even see it. She's stepping into something big, something wild, and Jake's the one holding the strings. The tension's building, the conflict's growing, and Linda's about to find out she's not the queen she thinks she is. Stick around, because the next part? Oh, it's going to be good. The snow kept falling, piling up on the ground, making everything look soft and white. The air was cold, so cold you could see your breath puff out like little clouds. Jake's lights twinkled brighter than ever, red ones flashing, green ones glowing, gold ones sparkling like treasure. Linda stood in his yard, her boots planted firm, her phone still in her hand. She'd just called the cops, and she was sure, super sure that she'd won. Her face was red, her eyes were sharp, and her smirk said, I'm the boss here. She thought Jake was done for. She thought those lights were coming down. She thought the whole street would see she was the queen of Pine Street. But Jake? He didn't budge. He leaned against his ladder, hands in his pockets, snow sticking to his messy brown hair. He didn't yell back. He didn't run inside to hide. He just watched Linda, calm and quiet, with that grin still on his face. It wasn't a scared grin. It wasn't a fake grin. It was a real grin, like he knew something funny, something big, something Linda didn't. And that made her squirm inside, even if she wouldn't admit it. Why wasn't he mad? Why wasn't he begging her to stop? Why wasn't he ripping those lights down right now? She didn't get it. She didn't want to get it. She just wanted to win. You'll see, Jake. Linda said, her voice loud and snappy. The cops will be here any second. They'll tell you those lights are illegal. They'll make you take them down, and maybe they'll even fine you. She waved her phone again, like it was proof she was right. You should have listened to me. I told you those lights were against the rules. I told you to stop. But no, you had to keep going, didn't you? Well, now you're in trouble. She paced back and forth, her boots crunching the snow, her coat flapping behind her. She was like a storm, a loud, angry storm blowing through Jake's yard. Jake tilted his head a little, like he was listening to a silly song. Okay, Linda, he said, nice and slow. If the cops say take them down, I'll take them down. But I don't think they will. His voice was so steady, so sure, it made Linda stop pacing for a second. She blinked at him, her mouth opening, then closing, then opening again. What did he mean? Of course the cops would agree with her. She was Linda Grayson. She was the HOA queen. She made the rules. She called 911. Who did Jake think he was, talking like that? Her face got even redder if that was possible, and she huffed, blowing out a big puff of air. You don't think they will, she snapped. Oh, that's funny, Jake. That's real funny. You'll see. They'll roll up here, lights flashing, sirens blaring, and they'll tell you to turn those off. Public safety, Jake. That's what this is about. Those lights are a danger. They're too bright. They're blinding people. I bet Mrs. Carter can't even sleep with them shining in her windows. She pointed down the street, like Mrs. Carter was her best proof. You're breaking the law, and I'm the one fixing it. Jake scratched his chin, pretending to think about it. He said. Mrs. Carter told me yesterday she likes them. Said they make her smile. He shrugged again, like it was no big deal. But sure, Linda. Let's see what the cops say. He didn't sound worried. He didn't look worried. He just stood there, snow falling on his jacket, lights blinking behind him, acting like this was all a game he wasn't losing. Linda's eyes got big, and her hands balled into fists. Likes them, she shouted. Likes them. That's ridiculous. She's old. She doesn't know what's good for her. I'm the HOA president. I decide what's good for the street. And those lights are bad. Bad, bad, bad. She stomped her foot, kicking up a little puff of snow. You're just trying to make me mad, Jake. But it won't work. The cops are coming, and that's that. She turned her back on him, crossing her arms, staring down the street like she could make the police cars appear just by wishing hard enough. Inside her head, Linda was already celebrating. She could almost hear the sirens. She could almost see the blue and red lights bouncing off the snow. She could almost picture the cops marching up to Jake, pointing at his house, saying, "Turn those off, sir. They're against the rules." She imagined Jake's grin fading, his shoulders slumping, his hands pulling the plugs one by one. She'd stand there, nodding, smiling, telling the neighbors, "See? I told you I'd fix it." In her mind, she was the hero. She was the winner. She was the queen who saved Pine Street from Jake's silly, stupid lights. But out here, in the real world, nothing was happening yet. No sirens. No flashing lights. Just snow falling, lights twinkling, and Jake standing there, cool as a cucumber. Linda tapped her foot, waiting. She glanced down the street, then back at Jake, then down the street again. "They'll be here soon," she muttered. "Any minute now." She didn't want to look unsure. She didn't want Jake to think she was nervous. But deep down, a tiny wiggle of worry started to squirm in her tummy. Why wasn't he scared? Why was he so calm? Why wasn't he fighting back? It didn't make sense. Jake kicked at the snow with his sneaker, making a little pile. "You know, Linda," he said, all casual, "I checked the HOA rules last week. Didn't see anything about lights." He looked up at her, his eyes bright, his grin wider. "Maybe you're making this up." He didn't laugh, but it felt like he wanted to. His words hung in the air, sharp and sneaky, like a little dart aimed right at Linda's pride. "Making it up," she yelled, spinning around so fast her coat swished. "Making it up? I don't make things up, Jake Miller. I'm the president. I know the rules. There's a rule about keeping things neat. And those lights aren't neat. They're messy. They're loud. They're too much." She waved her arms, pointing at the house like it was a monster. You don't check the rules. You don't even care. You're just a troublemaker, and I'm stopping you. Her voice was so loud now, it echoed down the street, bouncing off the houses like a rubber ball. Jake nodded, slow and easy, like he was agreeing with a little kid. Okay, Linda, he said. We'll see. He didn't argue more. He didn't yell back. He just let her words float away, carried off by the wind. And that made Linda's blood boil even hotter. She wanted him to fight. She wanted him to get mad. She wanted him to prove she was right to call the cops. But he wouldn't. He just stood there, grinning, waiting, like he had all the time in the world. The snow kept falling, thicker now, sticking to Linda's hair, piling up on Jake's ladder. The lights kept shining, bright and bold, like they were cheering Jake on. And Linda kept pacing, her boots crunching, her breath puffing, her anger growing. She didn't notice how quiet the street was. She didn't hear how the neighbors were whispering, watching, waiting. She didn't see how Jake's grin never faded, not even a little. She was too busy being mad, too busy being sure, too busy thinking she had all the power. But here's the thing, Linda didn't have all the power. Not really. She thought she did. She thought her clipboard and her rules and her phone gave her control. She thought calling the cops was her big win, her slam dunk, her knockout punch. But she didn't notice Jake wasn't sweating. She didn't see he wasn't scared. She didn't wonder why he was so calm, so steady, so unbothered. She didn't stop to think, wait a minute, what's going on here? And that was her mistake. A big one. Because something was brewing, something wild, something sneaky, something Linda couldn't even dream of. And she was about to step right into it, like a mouse walking into a trap. Let's picture it. Linda standing there, snow all over her coat, her face red as a tomato, her eyes darting down the street. She's waiting for those sirens, waiting for those flashing lights, waiting for her big moment. She's sure it's coming. She's positive she's right. She's ready to point at Jake and say, see? I told you. She's so caught up in her plan, she doesn't see the bigger picture. She doesn't see Jake leaning there, cool and quiet. She doesn't see the way his grin hides something big. She doesn't feel the tension building, like a rubber band stretched tight, ready to snap. And Jake? He's watching her. He's waiting too. But not for the cops. Not for a fight. He's waiting for something else, something that's going to turn this whole night upside down. What is it? Why's he so calm? Why's he letting Linda yell and pace and call the cops without even blinking? Oh, it's good. It's real good. But I'm not telling you yet. Nope, not yet. You've got to stick with me, because this story's heating up, and Linda's about to find out she's not the queen she thinks she is. The wind picks up, blowing snow in little swirls around them. The lights blink faster, like they're excited. The street stays quiet, no sirens yet, no cars, just Linda and Jake and the big, bubbly secret hanging in the air. Linda doesn't feel it. She doesn't hear it. She doesn't know it's there. But it is. And it's coming fast. She's walking right into it, step by step, yell by yell, smirk by smirk. She thinks she's got Jake cornered. She thinks she's got the power. But she's wrong. So wrong. What's Jake hiding? What's about to happen? Why's he grinning like that? You're itching to know, right? I can tell. Well, hold on, because this cold, snowy night is just the start. Linda's in deep, and she doesn't even see it. The cops might come, or they might not, but either way, something big is about to explode, and Linda's going to wish she'd left Jake's lights alone. Stay tuned, because the tension's thick, the conflict's hot, and this story's nowhere near done. The next day, the sun came up, peeking over the snowy houses on Pine Street. The air was still cold, and little puffs of frost sparkled on the ground. Jake's lights weren't on yet, it was daytime, after all, but you could still see them hanging on his house, all neat and colorful. Red ones, green ones, gold ones, they looked quiet now, waiting for night to shine again. Most people on the street were busy shoveling snow or sipping hot cocoa inside. Kids were building snowmen, giggling as they rolled big, round balls across their yards. It was a normal day, a happy day, a day that felt like Christmas was getting closer. But not for Linda Grayson. Oh no, not for her. Linda woke up madder than she'd been the night before when she called the cops on Jake. She hadn't slept much. Those lights, those stupid, bright, awful lights kept blinking in her head all night long. She tossed and turned, muttering to herself, he's ruining everything. Ruining it? She couldn't stand it. She couldn't let it go. She was the HOA queen, the boss of the neighborhood, and Jake was making her look silly. Silly. Her. That wasn't okay. That wasn't allowed. She had to do something bigger, something louder, something to show everyone she was still in charge. So Linda doubled down. She didn't just sit there and grumble. She didn't just shake her head and sip her coffee. Nope, she got to work. She grabbed her clipboard, that big, scary clipboard she always carried, and a stack of paper. She sat at her kitchen table, her pen scratching fast across the pages. Scratch, 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 she wrote warning letters. Not just one, oh no, but lots of them. Big, bold letters that said things like, take down those lights, and you're breaking the rules, and this is your last chance, Jake Miller. She underlined the words 3 times, pressing so hard the pen almost ripped the paper. She wanted Jake to know she meant business. Serious business. When she was done, she put on her coat, zipped it up tight, and marched outside. The snow crunched under her boots, crunch, 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 as she stomped over to Jake's house. The street was quiet, but Linda wasn't. She was loud inside her head, thinking, he'll see. He'll listen now. She got to Jake's door, her breath puffing out in angry little clouds, and stuck those letters right on it. Slap, 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 she taped them up, one after another, until his door looked like a bulletin board. Warning after warning, all screaming at Jake to stop. She stepped back, hands on her hips, and nodded. There, she said to herself. That'll show him. But Linda didn't stop there. Oh no, she wasn't done yet. She turned around and started walking up and down the street, her clipboard hugged tight to her chest. She knocked on doors, rang bells, and talked to everyone she could find. Jake's ruining the neighborhood, she told them, her voice sharp and bossy. Those lights are a disgrace. Too bright. Too many. He's breaking every rule we have. She waved her arms, pointing at Jake's house like it was a big, ugly monster. I called the cops last night, and they're going to shut this down tonight. You'll see. He can't keep doing this. Most folks didn't know what to say. They just stared at her, their eyes big, their mouths shut. Some nodded a little, just to make her go away. But a lot of them. They rolled their eyes when she wasn't looking. Rolled them big and slow, like, oh, Linda, not again. See, Jake wasn't the bad guy to them. Jake was the nice guy. The guy who shoveled snow for old Mrs. Carter when her back hurt. The guy who baked cookies, big, yummy chocolate chip ones, and shared them with the kids on the street. Here you go, he'd say, handing them out with that big grin of his. Everyone liked Jake. Everyone except Linda. The neighbors knew Linda was loud. They knew she loved her rules. They'd heard her yell before about grass, about bikes, about mailboxes. But this was extra. This was too much. It's just lights, Mr. Jenkins muttered, shutting his door. They're pretty, little Sophie whispered to her twin brother Sam, hiding behind their mom. Linda's crazy, Mrs. Carter said to her cat, shaking her head. Most folks didn't care about the lights. They liked them. They thought Jake was making the street fun, making it happy, making it feel like Christmas. But Linda? She didn't care what they thought. She kept pushing, kept talking, kept telling everyone Jake was the enemy. She even bragged about it. Oh yes, she did. She stood on her porch, sipping tea, yelling to anyone who walked by. The police are coming tonight, she shouted, her voice bouncing off the snowy houses. They'll shut this down. They'll make him stop. I told them those lights are a danger, and they're going to agree with me. She puffed out her chest, smirking like she'd already won. Jake thinks he's so smart, but he's not. I'm the smart one. I'm the boss. Tonight, those lights are gone. She was so sure, so proud, so ready to see Jake lose. Meanwhile, Jake didn't stop. He didn't hide. He didn't rip those warning letters off his door and cry. Nope, he kept going, quiet as a mouse but steady as a rock. He went outside that afternoon, his puffy blue jacket zipped up, his sneakers crunching in the snow. He carried a plug and a string of more lights, and started hooking them up. Clip, clip, clip they went onto the roof. Snap, snap, snap they looped around the porch. He hummed a little song, soft and happy, like nothing was wrong. The sun was still up, so the lights didn't glow yet, but you could see them there, waiting for night, waiting to shine again. Cars drove by slow, their tires whispering on the snowy road. People waved at Jake, nice, friendly waves. Hey, Jake, they'd call. Looking good. He'd wave back, that big grin on his face, saying, thanks. Hope you like it tonight. He didn't look mad. He didn't look scared. He didn't look like a guy who'd just gotten a stack of warning letters slapped on his door. He didn't look like a guy who'd had the cops called on him the night before. He looked chill. Super chill. Too chill, maybe. A few neighbors started whispering about it. They stood on their porches or peeked out their windows, watching Jake work. Why's he so calm? Mr. Jenkins asked his wife, scratching his head. Linda's going nuts, and he's just hanging lights. Mrs. Jenkins shrugged, sipping her coffee. Maybe he doesn't care, she said. Across the street, Sam and Sophie watched Jake through their window, their noses pressed to the glass. He's not scared, Sam whispered. Yeah, Sophie nodded. Linda's all yell why, but Jake's all smile why. Why? Good question, kids. Good question. See, Jake wasn't just some guy with a ladder and a string of bulbs. He wasn't just a regular neighbor who liked Christmas. Oh no, he was more than that. He had a secret, a big, sneaky secret that Linda didn't know about. Nobody knew about it, not Mrs. Carter, not the twins, not even grumpy Mr. Jenkins. Jake kept it tucked away, hidden behind that grin, locked up tight like a treasure chest buried in the snow. And every time Linda got mad, every time she yelled or wrote a letter or bragged about the cops, Jake got a little closer to turning the tables. A little closer to flipping this whole thing upside down. A little closer to showing everyone what he was really up to. Let's picture it. Linda stomping around, sticking letters on Jake's door, talking big to the neighbors. She's loud, she's bossy, she's sure she's winning. He's done for, she keeps saying, her voice sharp as a whistle. Tonight's the night. The cops will fix this. She's so caught up in her plan, she doesn't see Jake outside, plugging in more lights. She doesn't hear the neighbors whispering, wondering why he's so relaxed. She doesn't feel the little tickle in the air, the tickle that says something's coming, something big, something she won't like. And Jake? He's out there, calm and quiet, doing his thing. He climbs his ladder, his hands steady, his song floating soft on the wind. Clip, 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 another light goes up. Snap, 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 another row is ready. He waves at a car, grins at a kid, acts like everything's fine. But inside, he's counting down. He's waiting. He's getting ready. Every time Linda raged, every time she pushed, he took one more step toward his secret. One more step toward the moment when everything would change. One more step toward turning the tables on her. What was that secret? Oh, it was good. It was juicy. It was something Linda never saw coming, not in a million years. Was it funny? Maybe. Was it sneaky? Oh yeah. Was it going to make her mad? You bet. But Jake didn't spill it yet. He didn't tell anyone. He kept it close, kept it quiet, kept it safe. He let Linda yell. He let her brag. He let her think she had the upper hand. And all the while, he was moving closer, closer, closer to the big reveal. Days turned into more days, and Linda kept going. She didn't stop with the letters. She didn't stop with the bragging. She stuck more notes on Jake's door, more warnings, more rules, more take them down. She knocked on more doors, told more people, he's ruining us. Ruining us. She even stood in the middle of the street one afternoon, shouting so loud the birds flew away. The police are coming. Tonight? You'll all see. Jake's done. She was like a tornado, spinning and spinning, tearing through the neighborhood with her anger. But the neighbors? They were getting tired of it. She's too loud, Mrs. Carter muttered, petting her cat. He's just nice, Sam and Sophie's mom said, shaking her head. Linda needs to chill, Mr. Jenkins grumbled, slamming his window shut. They didn't buy it anymore. They didn't believe Jake was the bad guy. They saw him shoveling snow, sharing cookies, waving hello. They saw him hanging lights, making the street pretty, keeping it fun. And they saw Linda yelling, stomping, acting like the world was ending over some Christmas lights. It didn't add up. And Jake? He kept going too. Every day, he added a little more. A few more lights here, a few more there. Clip, clip, clip they went up. Snap, snap, snap they stayed put. He didn't rip the letters off his door, he left them there, flapping in the wind, like they didn't matter. He didn't argue with Linda, he just smiled when she glared at him. He didn't hide, he stood outside, waving at cars, acting like nothing was wrong. And every time he did, the neighbors whispered more. Why's he so chill, they'd say. What's he up to, they'd wonder. Linda's losing it, but Jake's fine, why? Good questions. Great questions. Because Jake wasn't worried. He wasn't scared. He wasn't sweating. He had that secret, that big, wild secret, and it was like a shield. Every time Linda raged, it got stronger. Every time she pushed, it got closer. Every time she bragged, it got ready to pop. She didn't see it. She didn't feel it. She didn't know it was there. But it was. And it was coming, slow but sure, quiet but strong, sneaky but big. Let's imagine Linda right now. She's in her house, peeking out her curtains, watching Jake plug in his lights as the sun starts to set. She's muttering to herself, tonight's the night. The cops will come. He'll lose. She's tapping her foot, clutching her clipboard, smirking like she's already won. She's picturing Jake pulling the plugs, looking sad, giving up. She's dreaming of the neighbors clapping, saying, "Wow, Linda, you did it." She's so sure, so proud, so ready. And Jake? He's outside, the sky turning dark, the snow falling soft around him. He's plugging in the last string, snap, 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 and flipping the switch. Whoosh, the lights come on, red, green, gold, glowing bright and bold. He steps back, looks at his house, and grins. He waves at a car driving by, nods at a kid on a sled, acts like it's just another night. But it's not. He knows it's not. He knows Linda's watching. He knows she's mad. And he knows something else, something she doesn't. Something that's going to turn the tables, flip the game, change everything. The neighbors watch too. They see the lights glow, see Jake smile, see Linda's curtains twitch. They whisper, "Why's he so calm?" They wonder, what's he hiding? They wait, what's going to happen? And Jake? He's waiting too. Waiting for Linda to make her next move. Waiting for the moment to drop his secret. Waiting to turn it all around. Every yell, every letter, every brag from Linda pushed him closer. And now? He was almost there. What was that secret? Oh, it was coming. It was close. It was ready. Linda never saw it coming, not in 100 years. But it was there, hiding behind Jake's grin, waiting behind his lights, growing behind his calm. And when it hit. Oh, when it hit, Linda's world was going to flip fast, hard, and loud. Stick around, because this story's rolling, the action's rising, and the revelations. They're sneaking up quick. That night, the sky was dark and full of stars. Snowflakes twirled down, soft and quiet, landing on the houses of Pine Street. Jake's lights were on, oh, they were shining bright. Red lights blinked like little hearts. Green lights glowed like emerald jewels. Gold lights sparkled like pirate treasure. His house looked like a magical castle, glowing in the cold, snowy night. Kids peeked out their windows, pointing and whispering, "So pretty." Neighbors stepped onto their porches, sipping hot cocoa, smiling at the happy holiday sight. It was a perfect night, a Christmas night full of cheer and cozy feelings. But then, something loud broke the quiet. Sirens. Wah-woo, they wailed down the street, getting closer and closer. Red and blue lights flashed, bouncing off the snow, painting the houses with color. 2 police cars rolled up, tires crunching the icy road, engines rumbling low. They stopped right in front of Jake's house, doors swinging open fast. Two cops climbed out, their boots heavy on the ground, their faces serious. The street went still. Kids hid behind curtains. Neighbors held their breath. Everyone watched, waiting to see what would happen next. Linda Grayson was ready. Oh, she was more than ready. She'd been waiting all day for this ever since she called 911 the night before. She stood on her porch, arms crossed tight, a big smirk on her face. Her coat was buttoned up, her hair was neat, and her eyes were sharp. She looked like a general, like a bossy army leader ready to win a big battle. Finally, she said to herself, her voice all smug and sure. The cops are here. Jake's done for. Those lights are coming down tonight. She'd bragged about this moment, told everyone the police would shut it down. And now, here they were. She thought she'd won. She thought this was her big victory. Linda marched off her porch, her boots stomping loud, stomp, stomp, stomp through the snow. She walked fast, her chin high, her smirk growing wider with every step. She headed straight for the cops, ready to point at Jake's house like she was the hero of the story. Officers, she called, her voice loud and bossy. Over here. It's that house. Those lights. They're too bright. Too many. Against the rules. I called you about them last night. She waved her arm big, pointing at Jake's glowing house, acting like she'd just saved the day. You need to make him take them down right now. But the cops didn't turn. They didn't look at Jake's house. They didn't even glance at the lights, not the red ones, not the green ones, not the gold ones. Nope. They kept walking, straight past Linda, their boots crunching steady crunch, crunch, crunch right toward her house. Linda froze. Her arm dropped. Her smirk wobbled. What? What was happening? The cops stopped at her door, not Jake's. One of them, a tall guy with a deep voice, looked right at her and said, Linda Grayson. Linda's jaw dropped. Her mouth fell open so wide you could have tossed a snowball in it. Her eyes got big, and her face went pale, not red like before, but white like the snow. Yes, she stammered, her voice all shaky now. She blinked fast, like she couldn't believe it. The cops were at her door? Talking to her? This wasn't the plan. This wasn't supposed to happen. She was the one who called them. She was the one in charge. What was going on? The tall cop stepped closer, his face serious, his hand on a little paper in his pocket. Ma'am, he said, slow and clear, we've got a warrant. You're under arrest. Linda's knees wobbled. Arrest. Arrest. Her. The other cop nodded, pulling out shiny silver handcuffs that glinted in the flashing lights. It's for fraud and harassment complaints, the tall cop went on. Filed by multiple neighbors. He looked at her like she was the troublemaker, not Jake. Like she was the one breaking the rules. The street went silent. Dead silent. No wind, no whispers, no nothing. Just the sound of Linda's breath, fast and loud like she couldn't catch it. The neighbors peeked out, jaws dropping too. Kids gasped, whoa. Old Mrs. Carter leaned on her cane, her eyes wide. Mr. Jenkins dropped his coffee mug crash, right on his porch. Sam and Sophie pressed their faces to their window, whispering, Linda's in trouble. Everyone froze, staring, waiting, shocked. This wasn't about Jake's lights. This was about Linda. Linda. Linda sputtered, her words tumbling out messy and loud. What? She yelled, her voice cracking. What? This is crazy. This is about his lights. She spun around, jabbing her finger at Jake's house again, her arm shaking now. Those lights? They're the problem. I called you. I told you. They're too bright. They're dangerous. That's why you're here. She stomped her foot, snow flying up around her. You've got it wrong. Arrest him. Not me. The tall cop shook his head, calm as could be. No, ma'am, he said, stepping closer. This isn't about lights. This is about you. He pulled out that paper, a warrant with Linda's name on it, and held it up. Fraud. Harassment. Neighbors complained. We've got proof. The other cop moved in, the handcuffs clicking, click, click as he got ready. Linda's face twisted, her eyes darting around, looking for a way out. But there was no way out. The cops weren't joking. They weren't here for Jake. They were here for her. And then Jake stepped out. He'd been inside, quiet as a mouse, watching from his window. Now he walked onto his porch, slow and easy, his puffy blue jacket zipped up, his messy hair dusted with snow. He didn't say a word at first. He just stood there, hands in his pockets, and grinned. That grin, oh, that grin. It wasn't just a friendly grin anymore. It was a winner's grin. A gotcha grin. A surprise grin. The neighbors turned to look at him, confused. Linda turned too, her face all scrunched up, her eyes burning mad. What are you smiling at? She snapped. Jake tilted his head, his grin growing bigger. Oh, Linda, he said, his voice smooth and happy. Looks like you're the one in trouble now. He took a step forward, snow crunching under his sneakers, and dropped the bomb, the big, wild, crazy truth. See, I'm not just some random guy, he said. I'm a private investigator. Hired by the HOA board. Been watching you for months. He paused, letting it sink in, letting everyone hear. The neighbors gasped. Linda's eyes went wide as dinner plates. The cops nodded, like they already knew. A private investigator. Linda squeaked, her voice high and wobbly. What? No. That's a lie. She shook her head fast, her hair flying around. You're lying. You're just a guy with stupid lights. But Jake kept talking, calm and sure, like he'd been waiting for this moment forever. Nope, he said. I was hired to dig into your shady stuff, Linda. Those fines you made people pay? The threats you sent? The money you took from the HOA? All fake. All wrong. All illegal. He pointed at her, his grin sharp now. I found proof. Lots of proof. The street exploded with noise. Neighbors shouted, what? Kids yelled, whoa. Mrs. Carter clapped her hands, I knew it. Mr. Jenkins hollered, she's a crook. Sam and Sophie jumped up and down, Linda's bad. Linda's bad. Everyone talked at once, their voices buzzing like bees. Linda's face went from white to red to purple, her mouth flapping open and shut. No, she yelled. No, no, no. That's not true. He's lying. He's making it up. But the cops didn't listen. They stepped closer, the handcuffs shining, ready to snap on her wrists. Jake wasn't done. Oh no, he had more. Those lights, he said, pointing at his house. They were bait. A trick. I put them up to keep you busy, to keep you mad so you wouldn't notice me digging. Every time you yelled, every time you wrote a letter, every time you called the cops, I got more proof. You fell for it, Linda. Hook, line, and sinker. He laughed a little chuckle like it was the funniest thing ever. You thought you were shutting me down, but I was shutting you down. Boom. Game over, Linda. The truth hit like a snowball to the face, cold, hard, and shocking. Linda wasn't the queen. She wasn't the boss. She was the bad guy. She'd been cheating, lying, and bossing everyone around for years, taking money, making up fines, scaring people with her clipboard. And Jake? He wasn't just some nice guy with lights. He was a secret investigator, sneaky and smart, hired to catch her. Those lights weren't a crime, they were a trap. A big, shiny trap that Linda jumped right into. Linda screamed, no. This is wrong. You can't do this. She twisted away, but the cops grabbed her arms, gentle but firm. Ma'am, calm down, the tall cop said. You're coming with us. Click, click, the handcuff snapped on, cold and tight around her wrists. She yanked and pulled, her boots slipping in the snow, but it was no use. Let me go, she shouted. He's the problem. His lights. His lights. But nobody listened. The cops led her toward the car, her coat flapping, her voice fading. The neighbors cheered loud and wild like they just won a big game. Yes. Mrs. Carter yelled, waving her cane. Good job, Jake. Mr. Jenkins clapped, about time. Sam and Sophie ran outside, jumping in the snow, shouting, Jake's a hero. Jake's a hero. Even the cops cracked little smiles, nodding at Jake like, nice work. Linda's head whipped around, her eyes blazing, but it didn't matter. She was caught. She was done. The queen was falling, and Jake was the one who pushed her off her throne. Jake stood on his porch, watching it all. His lights glowed behind him red, green, gold like a victory flag waving high. He didn't yell or brag. He didn't dance or cheer. He just grinned that same old grin, happy and quiet, like he'd planned it all along. And he had. Months of watching, months of digging, months of waiting all led to this. Linda thought she was smart, but Jake was smarter. She thought she had power, but Jake had the proof. She thought she'd win, but Jake turned the tables, bam, right in her face. The police car door opened creak and the cops helped Linda inside. She glared at Jake, her eyes like fire, her mouth twisted mad. "This isn't over," she hissed, but it was. It was so over. The door slammed shut thud and the sirens wailed again wah-woo as the cars pulled away. Linda's face pressed to the window, red and raging, but she couldn't do anything. She was gone, off to jail, off to face what she'd done. The street watched her go, the lights fading down the road, the snow falling soft in her place. Jake waved nice and slow as the cars disappeared. "Bye, Linda," he said, quiet and calm. The neighbors laughed, clapping more, shouting, "Way to go, Jake." He turned to them, his grin big and bright, and gave a little bow like a hero in a play. The lights twinkled behind him, red, green, gold, like they were clapping too. Linda was gone. Jake had won. And the big reveal? Oh, it was perfect, shocking, wild, and oh so sweet. The street buzzed with talk. "A private investigator," Mrs. Carter said, amazed. "He fooled her good." Mr. Jenkins nodded, "She deserved it." Sam and Sophie ran to Jake, tugging his jacket. "You're cool, Jake. So cool." He ruffled their hair, laughing, "Thanks, kids." Everyone crowded around, asking questions, cheering, smiling big. Linda's reign was overdone, finished, kaput, and Jake was the guy who made it happen. Those lights? Not a problem. They were a plan. And Linda? Not a queen. She was a crook caught and cuffed, thanks to Jake. The snow kept falling, the lights kept shining, and the night felt new. Linda thought she'd win, but she lost big time. Jake thought he'd catch her, and he did perfectly. The climax hit hard, the reveal flipped it all, and Pine Street? It was free from Linda, free to cheer, free to glow. Boom, game over, Linda. Jake's secret was out, and it was the best surprise ever. The police cars rolled away, their sirens fading wah-woo into the snowy night. Linda Grayson was inside, her hands cuffed, her face pressed to the window, glaring out at Pine Street. The cops had her now, no more yelling, no more bossing, no more clipboard. She was caught, done, finished. And as they led her to the cruiser, something amazing happened. The neighbors cheered. Oh, they cheered loud, wild and happy, like they just won a big prize. "Yes," shouted old Mrs. Carter, waving her cane in the air. "Good riddance," hollered Mr. Jenkins, clapping his hands. "Yay, Jake," squealed Sam and Sophie, jumping up and down in the snow. The whole street came alive, buzzing with noise, full of smiles. Linda didn't cheer, though. Oh no, she didn't like this one bit. Her face was redder than a cherry and her eyes were mad, shooting daggers at everyone. "This isn't fair," she yelled as the cops held her arms. "Let me go. I didn't do anything." But the cops didn't listen. They knew the truth. The neighbors knew the truth. And Jake? He'd made sure everyone knew it too. Click, click, the handcuffs stayed tight on her wrists, shiny and cold. Thud, the car door shut hard, locking her in. She kicked at the seat, she twisted around, she shouted some more, but it was no use. The engine growled, the tires crunched, and off she went, away from Pine Street, away from her throne, away from her power. Why were the neighbors so happy? Why were they cheering like it was a party? Because Linda wasn't the queen she pretended to be. Oh no, she was sneaky, super sneaky and mean too. For years, lots and lots of years, she'd been overcharging dues. That's money everyone had to pay to the HOA, like a club fee. She'd say, "Pay me $50, or pay me $100. But it was too much, way too much, and she didn't use it for the street. Nope, she kept it. She stuffed that cash in her pockets, hiding it away like a greedy pirate with gold. She'd been stealing, cheating, taking what wasn't hers. And that wasn't all. Linda bullied everyone too. She'd bang on doors, wave her clipboard, and yell mean things. Your grass is too long, she'd snap at Mr. Jenkins. Your dog's too loud, she'd bark at Mrs. Carter. Your bike's in the way, she'd shout at Sam and Sophie's mom. She scared people, bossed them around, made them feel small all so she could feel big. For years, she'd ruled Pine Street like a grumpy dragon, puffing smoke and stomping on anyone who didn't listen. But now, that dragon was caught. The fire was out. And it was all because of Jake. Jake's Christmas lights weren't just pretty. Oh no, they were more than that, way more. They were a trap, a clever, sneaky trap that caught Linda in her own game. Those red lights blinking, those green lights glowing, those gold lights twinkling. They weren't just for fun. They were bait, like a worm on a hook to catch a fish. Jake put them up to keep Linda busy, to keep her mad, to keep her yelling so she wouldn't see what he was really doing. And what was he doing? Digging. Finding proof. Catching her lies. Every time she raged about those lights, he was collecting clues, papers, notes, secrets that showed what a crook she was. Those lights were the shiny trick that ended her reign. Smart, huh? The cops knew it too. That's why they came with a warrant, a special paper that said, Linda's in trouble. Neighbors had complained, lots of them, saying, she took our money, and she's mean. Jake gave the cops the proof, and boom, they came for her, not him. As the cars drove off, the tall cop gave Jake a little nod, like, good job, buddy. The other cop smiled, tipping his hat. They knew Jake was the hero, the quiet hero nobody saw coming. Linda thought the cops were her helpers, but nope, they were Jake's teammates all along. The next morning, the sun came up bright, shining on the snow like glitter. Pine Street felt different, lighter, happier, freer. No more Linda stomping around. No more clipboard banging on doors. No more yelling about rules. The HOA board, the grown UPS who really ran things, heard everything. They called Jake right away, their voices all excited. Jake, they said. You did it. You caught her. Thank you. They were so happy, they could hardly talk straight. She's been cheating us for years, they told him. Taking money, making up fines, being a bully. We hired you to find out, and you did better than we ever hoped. They clapped over the phone, cheering like kids on a snow day. Jake just grinned that same old grin and said, glad I could help. He didn't brag. He didn't puff out his chest. He was quiet, nice, humble like always. But the board wasn't done. We're throwing a party, they said. A big block party tomorrow. Under your lights? To say thanks. Jake laughed, sounds fun. And just like that, Pine Street got ready to celebrate. Linda was gone, justice was served, and Jake? He was the star, the hero nobody expected. The next day, oh, what a day. The snow was thick, the air was cold, but the street was warm with excitement. Everyone worked together, fast and happy, setting up the party. Tables went up creak in front of Jake's house. Mrs. Carter brought cookies, all gooey and sweet. Mr. Jenkins carried hot cocoa, steaming in big pots. Sam and Sophie's mom made sandwiches, ham and cheese, peanut butter and jelly stacked high on plates. Kids ran around, giggling, tossing snowballs plop, plop, while grown UPS hung streamers red, green, gold to match Jake's lights. Someone plugged in a radio, crackle, and Christmas songs floated out, soft and jolly. When the sun went down, Jake flipped the switch, click and whoosh. The lights came on, brighter than ever. Red ones danced, green ones shimmered, gold ones sparkled right over the party. The street glowed, warm and happy, like a big hug from Christmas itself. Everyone cheered loud and long, clapping for the lights, clapping for Jake. Wow, shouted Sam, his mittens flapping. So cool, squealed Sophie, spinning in the snow. Best party ever, yelled Mr. Jenkins, sipping his cocoa. The neighbors crowded around, eating, laughing, singing under those glowing lights, the same lights Linda hated, the same lights that caught her. The HOA board stood up on a table, wobble, and waved their hands to quiet the crowd. Listen, everyone, they said, their voices big and proud. We've got something to say. The chatter stopped, heads turned, eyes looked up. Linda's gone, they started, and it's all because of Jake. Cheers exploded again, woohoo, and Jake waved, shy but smiling. She was stealing our money, they went on. Overcharging us, keeping it for herself. She bullied us too, made us scared, made us mad. But Jake? He's a private investigator, a secret hero. He found the proof, set the trap, and got her caught. More cheers louder now filled the air. Thank you, Jake, they shouted. You saved us. Jake stepped up, his sneakers squeaking on the snow. Ah, thanks, he said, his voice soft but clear. I just wanted to help. You're all good people, you didn't deserve Linda's tricks. He pointed at the lights. These were the bait, and she fell for it. Now she's gone, and we're free. The crowd roared yay, and clapped so hard their hands hurt. Sam and Sophie ran over, hugging Jake's legs. You're the best, they chirped. Mrs. Carter hobbled up, patting his arm. You're a good boy, Jake, she said, her eyes twinkling. Even Mr. Jenkins grinned, and said, not bad, kid. Not bad. The party went on, oh, it went on big. Kids danced under the lights, their shadows bouncing on the snow. Grown ups ate cookies, sipped cocoa, told stories about Linda's mean days. She fined me for my flowers, laughed Mrs. Carter. She yelled at my dog, chuckled Mr. Jenkins. She said our sled was too loud, giggled Sam and Sophie. They laughed and laughed, free from her rules, free from her bossy voice. The music played jingle bells, and the lights glowed, bright and bold, like a promise that things were better now. Linda's house stayed dark. No lights, no noise, no nothing. It sat there, quiet and empty, like a grumpy old rock in the middle of the party. Nobody missed her. Nobody wanted her back. Her reign was done over, finished, kaput. She'd ruled with tricks and yells, but Jake ended it with truth and lights. The street felt lighter, like a big weight was gone, like the holiday spirit could finally stretch its wings and fly. No more fear. No more stolen cash. Just neighbors, friends, and a happy glow. Jake walked around, shaking hands, hugging kids, sipping cocoa. He didn't act big or loud. He was still Jake, nice Jake, quiet Jake, hero Jake. You staying? Mrs. Carter asked, her cat purring nearby. Oh yeah, Jake said, grinning. I like it here. Good people, good street. She smiled, good. We need you. Sam and Sophie tugged his jacket. Will you make more lights, they begged. He laughed, maybe next year. Mr. Jenkins slapped his back. Keep Linda away, huh? Jake nodded, she's not coming back. The night got colder, but the party stayed warm. Snow fell, soft and slow, dusting the tables, the food, the lights. The red ones blinked hello, hello like they were waving. The green ones glowed calm, calm like they were resting. The gold ones sparkled yay, yay like they were cheering. Jake's house shone brighter than ever, lighting up the street, lighting up the party, lighting up everyone's hearts. Linda was gone for good, and Jake was here, the hero nobody expected. Justice was served, oh, it was served big. Linda got caught, cuffed, taken away. The money she stole? The HOA promised to fix that, give it back, make it right. The bullying? Over, done, history. The neighbors weren't scared anymore, they were happy, free, together. Jake's trap worked, those pretty lights did the trick, and Linda's mean days were finished. The block party rocked on, loud and fun, under the glow that started it all. Pine Street was new, fresh, alive, and Jake? He was the quiet guy who made it happen, the hero who turned on the lights and turned off the dragon. The stars twinkled high, the snow fell low, and the street danced happy, happy, happy. Linda's dark house faded away, but Jake's shone on bright, bright, brighter than ever. So here's the thing, Pine Street learned something big that snowy December. Something you can hold onto, something you can think about, something that might make you look at people a little different. Sometimes the loudest person, the one yelling, stomping, making a big fuss, is hiding the biggest mess. And the quiet guy, the one smiling, staying calm, not fighting back, he might just be the one to light up the truth. It's funny, right? The loudest voice doesn't always mean the strongest heart. And the quietest person doesn't always mean they're weak. Nope, not at all. Let's talk about it slow and easy so you can see what I mean. Think about Linda Grayson. She was loud, oh, she was so loud. She yelled about Jake's lights like they were the worst thing ever. Too bright, she shouted. Too many, she snapped. Take them down, she bossed. She stomped up and down the street, waving her clipboard, calling the cops, telling everyone Jake was ruining everything. Her voice was big, her steps were heavy, her anger was hot. She made so much noise, bang, 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 like a drum that wouldn't stop. Everyone heard her. Everyone saw her. She wanted them to think she was right, she was strong, she was the queen. And for a while, they did. They listened because she was loud, louder than a fire truck, louder than a thunderstorm, louder than anything on Pine Street. But Linda had a mess, a big, secret mess. She wasn't yelling because she was right. She was yelling because she was scared someone would find out what she was hiding. All that money she took. All those mean things she did. She buried them deep, like a dog hides a bone, and hoped nobody would dig them up. She thought if she shouted loud enough, if she pointed at Jake hard enough, nobody would look at her. Nobody would peek under her crown and see the sneaky, cheating, bullying stuff she'd done. The louder she got, the more she was hiding. That's the trick. Sometimes noise is just a cover, like a big blanket thrown over a pile of junk. Now think about Jake Miller. Jake was quiet, super quiet. He didn't yell back at Linda. He didn't stomp around or wave his fists. When she stuck letters on his door, he didn't rip them off and scream. When she called the cops, he didn't run or hide. He just smiled that big, happy grin and kept hanging his lights. Clip, 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 they went up. Snap, 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 they stayed there. He waved at cars, he shared cookies, he shoveled snow for Mrs. Carter. He was calm, like a lake with no ripples, like a snowflake falling soft and slow. Nobody thought much about him at first. Oh, that's just Jake, they'd say. Nice guy. Quiet guy. No big deal. But Jake wasn't weak. Oh no, he was strong, stronger than Linda, stronger than anyone knew. He was quiet because he didn't need to shout. He didn't need to prove anything with noise. He had the truth bright and shiny like his lights, and he let it do the talking. Those red, green, and gold lights? They weren't just pretty, they were his secret weapon. He used them to catch Linda, to light up her mess, to show everyone who she really was. He didn't fight with words or fists. He fought with smart, sneaky, quiet power. And when the cops came, when the truth came out, Jake's quiet strength won. He lit up the street, and he lit up the truth. So what's the lesson here? What can you take from this wild story? It's simple, really, really simple. Next time someone picks a fight over something small, stop and think. Ask yourself, what are they trying to hide? Because sometimes, lots of times, the loudest troublemakers are the ones with the biggest secrets. They yell to keep you away, to keep you from looking too close. And the quiet ones? The ones who don't make a fuss? They might just be the heroes, waiting with the truth in their pocket, ready to shine when it's time. Let's picture it like a little movie in your head. Imagine you're at school, okay. There's this kid, let's call him Timmy, who's always loud. He's shouting in the lunchroom, "These fries are gross." He's banging his tray, bang, bang, saying, "The line's too slow." He's pointing at everyone, "You're all too noisy." He's making a big deal about everything, every little thing, like spilled milk or a wobbly chair. Everyone looks at him, everyone hears him, everyone thinks, wow, Timmy's mad. But maybe, just maybe, Timmy's hiding something. Maybe he didn't do his homework and doesn't want the teacher to ask. Maybe he broke a pencil and doesn't want anyone to know. Maybe he's loud because he's scared of getting caught. Now imagine another kid, let's call her Mia. Mia's quiet. She sits at her table, eating her fries, smiling a little. When Timmy yells, she doesn't yell back. She just keeps doing her thing, coloring a picture, helping a friend, staying calm. Nobody notices her much. Oh, that's just Mia, they say. She's nice. She's quiet. But what if Mia knows something? What if she saw Timmy sneak an extra cookie and not share? What if she's got the truth tucked in her backpack, waiting for the right moment? She doesn't need to shout. She's got the power of knowing, and when it's time, she'll tell the teacher, quiet and sure, and Timmy's loud game will be up. See? It's like Linda and Jake all over again. The loud one Timmy, Linda stirs up trouble to hide their mess. The quiet one Mia, Jake holds the truth and waits. And in the end, the truth wins. It always does, maybe not fast, maybe not loud, but steady and strong, like a light that never goes out. That's what happened on Pine Street. Linda's noise fell apart, and Jake's quiet lit the way. Cool, right? Let's try another picture, something from home. Say your little brother's yelling, "My toy's broken." You did it? He's pointing at you, stomping his feet, making a big fuss. He's loud, so loud mom comes running. What's wrong? She asks, and he keeps shouting, it's her fault. Her fault. But you're quiet. You know the truth, he broke it, playing too rough, and now he's scared to admit it. You don't yell back. You just wait, maybe show mom the pieces, maybe tell her calm and clear, I didn't touch it. And when she figures it out, when the truth comes out, your brother's noise doesn't win. Your quiet does. Sound familiar? It's Pine Street in your house. This happens everywhere: school, home, even the playground. The loud kid pushing in line might be hiding that he cheated at tag. The quiet kid sharing her swing might know who really won. Noise hides messes. Quiet finds truth. And you? You can be the quiet one, the smart one, the strong one who watches, waits, and wins with what's real. You don't need to shout to be big. You just need to see, to think, to know. So next time someone's picking a fight over lights, over fries, over toys, stop for a second. Look at them. Listen to them. Ask yourself, what's behind all that noise? Maybe they're mad about something little because something big's hiding underneath. Maybe they're scared, like Linda was, of getting caught. And then look at the quiet ones, the ones not fighting, not fussing. Maybe they've got something true, something strong waiting to shine. Maybe they're the Jakes of your street, your school, your world. What does this mean for you? It means you've got power, real power. You don't need to be the loudest kid in the room to matter. You don't need to yell or stomp or wave a clipboard to be strong. You can be quiet like Jake and still change things. Watch people. Listen to them. Think about what's really going on. If someone's making a fuss over something tiny like a pencil or a game, maybe they're hiding a mess. And if you're calm, if you're smart, if you're true, you can light it up, not with lights, but with knowing. Think about Jake one more time. He didn't fight Linda's noise with more noise. He didn't shout, "You're wrong," or "Stop it." He hung his lights clip, 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 and let her yell. He smiled big and bright and let her stomp. He waited calm and cool and let her fall. His quiet beat her loud, not with fists, not with words, but with truth. And when it was over, Pine Street cheered not for the loudest, but for the truest. That's the secret, right there. Truth doesn't need a big voice. It just needs a steady heart. So here's your challenge, your big, fun challenge. Next time you see trouble, big or small, be a Jake. Don't jump in with noise. Don't yell or fuss. Watch. Think. Ask, what's hiding here? Maybe it's a friend mad about a game, hiding that they lost. Maybe it's a bully loud about lunch, hiding they're hungry. Maybe it's someone bossy at home, hiding they're scared. You don't have to shout them down. You can wait, you can know, you can shine like a little light in the dark. And guess what? You're stronger than you think. Quiet doesn't mean small. Calm doesn't mean weak. Jake was quiet, but he was a hero. He was calm, but he was tough. You can be too. You can light up your own truth, maybe not with Christmas lights, but with your eyes, your ears, your heart. When someone's loud, you can be the one who sees. When someone's hiding, you can be the one who knows. And when it's time, you can be the one who wins, not with noise, but with real, solid, awesome you. Let's wrap it up nice and big, nice and bright. Pine Street taught us something cool: the loudest troublemakers might have the messiest secrets, and the quietest helpers might have the brightest truth. Linda's noise crashed down bang, because she hid too much. Jake's quiet rose up shine, because he held what's real. Next time someone picks a fight over something small, lights, toys, whatever, pause and wonder, what's behind that? Be the Jake, not the loudest, but the strongest. You've got it in you: quiet power, steady truth, hero stuff. Shine it up, and watch the world cheer.